centering prayer creates freedom. And if you're incarcerated, that freedom is really important, because they can take, as I used to tell my students, they can take away your liberty, but they really can't take away your freedom. Centering prayer I learned about back in the 1980s when a friend of mine gave me Thomas Keating's first major book. And it's simple, it's so simple. As Cynthia Bourgeault says, it's such a simple prayer, but it's hard to appreciate because it's so simple. You know, but it's a very powerful practice, and it's in its simplicity of just letting go of thoughts. I close the door in the room, and I sit down in a chair that's as comfortable as I can find, and set my timer for, it used to be 20 minutes, now I do 25, thinking I need to step this up. And I usually begin with the sign of the cross, just sort of a physical settling in, and use my sacred word to quiet myself. And then the process begins of quieting and unquieting. You know, the thoughts arise, I let them go. If I get really wrapped up in some thoughts, like planning a meal or remembering something, then I return to my sacred word until the 20 minutes is over. The chaplain walked me in, and so we went out to the yard, and then I went into the chapel and introduced myself, and there was a nice group of, you know, maybe 10 or 12 young and old men in there. Oh, they just appreciate somebody coming. I think seeing somebody not in uniform is nice, you know, but they were very appreciative, and most of them came back. We go in once a week, Saturday mornings, and at first I tried to do what Ray does, or what I understand Ray to do, and other people do a kind of a lesson. And I don't know what the order is that they put it in, but a lesson and then a sitting with centering prayer, and there may be questions or something afterwards. I'm not sure but theirs is very formal. Ours is very informal, or it's evolved. At first, that's what I did. I tried to do a teaching each time, you know. But I learned to start with centering prayer and then do the teaching, because in case we got interrupted again and had to stop. So we always tried to value centering prayer as the first thing we did, and they all agreed that that was the right way to go. But now what I do is I just take some words of Jesus from Scripture, just as the simplest, maybe a couple sentences, and we read those, and we listen to what word or phrase stands out for us from that sentence, or two sentences, and then we go around the room and share that word or phrase, which is kind of like another way of reading it, to hear those highlights. And then we discuss what it means in our lives, and it's very informal and very meaningful. The scripture that I've heard a million times in my life just comes alive and takes on new meanings, and it's really been a fascinating process for myself, and I can tell for the people who participate. We share pretty personally. We're not supposed to be familiar with each other, but it's really hard when you're talking about spirituality. Some don't share much at all. Occasionally, someone who's usually quiet will say something, and that's kind of neat. But it's amazing how open they are in sharing their thoughts. A little less maybe their deep personal lives, but I've heard some really beautiful things from these guys as they're finding their way to survive in a prison. A man named Ian, who actually said the other day that, you know, this is the best thing that happened to me. I needed to come to prison, and I needed to have centering prayer. He said I probably never would have done it outside. And I wasn't self-reflective. I just was going through life and getting myself in one mess or another. And now his relationship with his wife is healed, and he feels like he's getting to know himself for the first time in his life. And he feels transformed. I'm trying to remember what he said yesterday about that we're talking about going through the narrow door. He said he's just finding it easier to see when he's not going through the narrow door, so he can get back on track. A profound experience to share like this with these people, and to pray with them, and to hear their stories, and to share my own, and how appreciative they are and how much it means to them. Yeah, I could not go. It's kind of sprawled out, and the first stop is just with the car. You show your license, and then you park, then walk to a center where you turn in your license and get your what they call a brown card and sign in. And then we get back in the car and we drive to the other side with the news section of Mule Creek. It's kind of two building areas. And the news section has 2 yards, and they each have 6 buildings. And so then we check in there, and that's when we slide our card through the usual thing that you do, where you slide your card and sign in again. And then we walk again and through a couple of sally ports, and then this time we turn in these little chits, and we get keys and an alarm. And then we go out another door, walk to another door, wait for that to open, and then we're on the yard. So it's quite a process. Usually when we walk onto the yard, they start to join us, and so it's quite an entourage by the time we get to the chapel, which is quite a walk. And during that time, they'll tell a little bit about how their week was and some of the treatment. There's one elderly man in our group, and they had I don't know exactly what it's formally called, but they were supposed to stop and stand still in the yard. And the man next to him started to faint, and he reached over to help him, and he got in trouble for that. And he hadn't had anything like that in his entire time at Mule Creek. And he was very upset that happened. And he didn't understand why the correctional officer couldn't understand why he had made the move he made. My advice was be practice centering prayer and just love those people and share it with them. I really don't think it's much more than that. And care about them, understand, and they'll help you understand what the prison experience is like really fast. Leading the sessions keeps me committed to the prayer every day. It's one of my motivations to practice centering prayer every day. I owe it to them to do that, to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And but as far as the value, it's almost hard to. It's so much value to it. I mentioned part about freedom, the freedom from yourself, from all those narratives, from the stories you tell yourself all your life, from the judgmental thoughts that just keep pinging away. And centering prayer helps you, as the 20 minutes, you're just letting go of thoughts over and over again, and you're recognizing that sometimes you can be thinking something for a while and go, oh my gosh, where have I been all this time? And you learn, though, to start recognizing that a little sooner and letting go. And that translates into the outside. It's really what you do in your life that's where you see the fruit of centering prayer. I'm sure you've heard that before. And you start to notice, are you talking to me? You notice that this is not where I want my thoughts to go right now, or this isn't the reaction I want, or I'm starting to react. I feel myself tense up. Whoa, I'm reading my own language now, which I didn't always do. I thought, well, that's my reality. It's just what it was, and that is freeing for me, and it's empowering to me, and I know it is for them to know they don't have to react. And there's a lot to react to in prison. There are some people who just want to get a reaction from you, And so I know that they feel empowered and more peaceful, more calm. They love to come to that group. We had just one, last week yesterday, there was a man who was brand new, hadn't been there before. And I said, well, how was it? Do you have any questions? He said, I feel calm. And if that's all he gets, that's great. And if he keeps coming, he'll get more. They're just really understanding. They want to be, and they want to participate, and it's an atmosphere of just give and take and kindness. And I think if people believe in centering prayer and really convinced that it's a great gift, and they want to share it, they will not find a more receptive audience than in a prison, I think.